Welcome to another episode of Planeta G. On today's episode, we are honoring Indigenous peoples, our Mestizex ancestries, and reimagining our climate story.
Historically, the colonization and destruction of Indigenous cultures and lives are a marker of trauma in Latinx communities. Indigenous peoples across the Americas have been exploited at the hands of corporations and governments for centuries, but they have also resisted and remained strong. From the Guarani peoples in Ecuador to the Guajajara in Brazilian Amazon and the Mapuche in Chile, Indigenous people continue to stand up against environmental injustices and are rewriting their stories through bold climate actions.
To speak to us today about the power of Indigenous peoples through resistance and protection of our Madre Tierra, we have Felipe Viveros. He's from Wamapú Mapuche lands, which includes Chile. He's a writer, ecologist, and artist. He has served as a representative of the Gross National Happiness Center in Bhutan and was the board chair of the Rules and the Sacred Headwaters Initiative. Welcome, Felipe.
Thank you. Gracias.
So just to start off, you've described yourself before as a mix of bloodlines from Indigenous Mapuche to Italian, Spanish, and Swiss ancestry. How does the mix of identity influence your experience as an environmentalist?
There is a tension. There's a big tension. And at the same time, as I've been able to reconnect with my different inheritances, it feels like I can, in a way, weave a conversation between these different parts of me. And I think when I was a kid growing up, this was very evident. Being a brown boy growing up in modern Chile was this sense of like, the weight of racism is so huge, and now we have still so much to do to kind of decolonize not just the environmental space, but I think throughout.
So Felipe, you and I have known each other for a few years now, and in the beginning, you would share some of this stuff that I'd never heard before about mysticism and animism and all these kinds of things. In creating a future that we can all thrive in, like what is the role of those concepts, and can you describe a little bit what they are?
We have had that as kind of different human societies, and I think anything from indigenous peoples all around the world, modern day kind of Celt people, druids and stuff. I think it's just the way that I find quite easy to describe is spiritual ecology or sacred ecology. The sense that when you go for a walk in nature, in a park nearby where you live, or somewhere in a beautiful forest nearby, there's something that you feel. There's something. You're touched by something that is not easy to put into words, and there is something there that is we can say the feeling, we can say connection, we can try to describe that experience in so many different ways. But basically, is a way that we have as humans to make sense of the world and to cultivate that kinship, right? And I think in kind of like in the Anthropocene, in our kind of current times, we have forgotten, we have pushed aside this element of understanding the living world as an organism. And when we try to focus and we look at our differences, I am Mapuche, or I am, a Druid, or I am Sami, or I am whatever my kind of worldview is, then we have so many things that are different. But when we talk about our love for the land and our the sense of awe that we have when we connect to a place where we were born, or where we can connect to a place that is meaningful to us, there is something that suddenly we discover, oh my God, we care so much. I love this place so much. I will, you know what I mean? So I think it's something that in the West we're starting to become increasingly more and more aware, and we're understanding also that is such a key part, I think, in terms of regeneration, thriving, all these like great ideas. But it's also like we need to start from ourselves. We need to do that rewilding within ourselves first.
I love that, the topic of this conversation is sort of like reimagining our climate story. And instead of thinking about the things that separate us or thinking about the things that make us different, thinking about how we actually have a common love for the same things and a common hope for the future. So bringing us closer together instead of dividing us is how we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah,
totally.
And I think because we tend to think of the environment as something that is out there, of something that we need to save, something that we need to protect. And so I think this is something that with storytelling, with our narratives, with new ways of, in a way, re-enchanting the what we don't really understand, and really dwelling in that. And I think because it's a fight to save the environment, it's a fight to save the climate, it's a fight to decarbonize the economy, it becomes, in a way, it becomes part of the problem. And I think there's a paradox of like, we're running out of time, there's a runaway effect, and at the same time, with this sense of desperation, it's really difficult to get anybody on our side to kind of care for the environment, right? There's something really deeply intriguing and beautiful in what we're doing.
We're living, 2020 so far has been extremely stressful for a lot of people. We've seen a massive global social unrest, climate breakdown, as you said, a pandemic. So healing the land and the society is what we need to do. But how do you imagine or reimagine our future?
We're so busy. We're so busy all the time trying to do this and catch that, and you know what I mean? And it's like we have no time at all. We are like, so I think for me the future, and it's really interesting what's going on right now in Chile, right? Just talking about in terms of like the sense of like that being a possibly like a fractal of the future, and also like in America right now, right, where like people are suddenly coming together. People are suddenly talking about solidarity and dignity and all these great things. And I think for me, those are the real foundations of a new system, of a new kind of world. And I think from that, we can go and do rewilding, and we can go and do regeneration. But unless we really, in a way, heal our relationship with other people, with other humans, it's going to be really difficult, right? And I see this right now where I live. Like my sense of reimagining the future, there's an element of like a social transformation and conflict transformation, and the sense of like really building spaces where we can come together in a meaningful way and create ways that we can share solidarity and support each other and look after each other and spend more time and energy in this in kind of contributing to this like common good. But I think unless we sort out the human dilemma, the rest is like it's cosmetic in a way, or it's like working with the branches, not necessarily with the root.
You left your family home and you went walking in the mountains, and you encountered an older woman, and she gave you a place to stay, and this is sort of like a teacher figure for you. Can you just tell that story?
This woman became my first kind of mentor and my first elder I ever learned from. And it was just really humbling, because coming from the city, it was part of the process was unlearning a lot of my Western, white, colonized ways, and really listen to this different wisdom, different worldview. If we were able to ask questions and respectfully ask questions and respectfully wanting to learn from elders and wisdom keepers and people throughout the Americas, throughout the world. We have so many, even here in Europe, where you could argue was one of the places where, like, in a way, imperialism and colonization kind of began, right? And so a lot of the traditional wisdom and knowledge got wiped out with the witch hunt and with the Inquisition. But you can still see and you can still find the wisdom is in the land as well. So it's like it's also in people, but it's also something that is available in the land. I think if I were to kind of try to encapsulate what I learned from her, there was so much about kind of deep listening. There was so much about really opening myself up to really let nature be the teacher. I think we are really lucky because we have so many teachers all around us, but it's only if we are able to be humble, to be respectful enough, and to be able to listen. I think more and more we have bridges between Western thought and indigenous thinking, traditional ecological knowledge, and I think is something that we should be engaging more and more. Because we are at a time where we feel so heartbroken and so despairing. I was speaking with someone yesterday, with a friend, and I was saying it's extraordinary how in the West we are seeing this current time as the end of the world, as a time of apocalypse. And I was talking about the elections in Bolivia, and I was saying, in Bolivia, they talk about the Pachacuti. They talk about this is the end of a cycle and the beginning of another cycle. And they talk about this like periods of time of like whatever, 26,000 years or 45,000 years. And it's like, it's so fascinating because for us in the West, it's like, oh my God, this is like, it's terrifying what's going on, oh Trump, oh this or that. But if you look at like from the big picture, it's a different story.
If we're only using the tools that we're taught of, that are like the colonizers' tools and the tools of racism, and we don't get out of that sort of like system that we're operating in, then we can never actually have or live in a world that is different. So we have to like separate ourselves, be in community, learn from each other.
But if we are only listening to the narratives and the stories of hope and war, we just naturally feel really, really, really broken and really, really bad. But then if we pay attention and if we shift the attention towards something else, then there is so much that we can learn, and we can find nourishment and inspiration.
So Felipe, can you tell us about the work that you've been doing in the Amazon and in Brazil?
We were invited as a collective, as a bunch of rebels and storytellers and hackers to go and listen up, go to Brazil. And so part of the work that I've been doing around reimagining narratives and really listening to some of the narratives that have been there for like long time. And so with this project that we've been doing since January in Brazil, working with different First Nations all across the country, a lot of the key is about kind of like so reimagining our society, reimagining public spaces. Davi Kopenawa, an indigenous Yanomami elder who we are working with also in Brazil, he talks about this idea of I don't want you guys to stop living in cities, but I want you to have a rainforest in the middle of your cities, right? and I find that such a kind of like beautiful image, right? Of in a way remixing the boundaries of like the urban and the countryside and rewild public spaces. In Brazil, where indigenous people were saying, hey, we've been resisting for 500 years. We are here. We're not going anywhere. We're still standing. We're strong. And we will continue singing, dancing, celebrating our existence and our resistance. And I think it's something that we can all do, where we are celebrating our own communities, our own relationships, our loved ones, our places where we are, our trees, our birds, our neighbors.
Thank you so much, Felipe, for sharing all of your experiences. We really appreciate you coming on to Planeta G today.
Thank you so much.
Gracias, hermano. Nos vemos pronto.
Eso, muchas gracias.
Gracias.
So we've been doing a lot of digging into what it means to reimagine a future for all of us. And we want to share a couple of projects with you that we've been working on. So the first one is called The Future We Fight For, and it's a collaboration with Greenpeace and Frailty Myths. The project is a 3-part series that you can check out down below, and you can join us to learn about building a vision for a better world and discuss how all of these things relate to race, class, and climate change. Also, make sure to listen to What We Need Now, a new podcast created by some amazing people we work with at Greenpeace, where people who are on the front lines of sacrifices, environmental disasters, and marginalization share their experiences and truths. Each episode even has a take action like toolkit to help you fight for what you believe in. All the links are below, and make sure to check them out.
Thank you once again for tuning into Planeta G. You make sure to hit that bell so you know exactly when we're dropping a new episode. And please follow us on Instagram at Greenpeace USA. Catch you guys soon. Bye.
Ciao.